My instructional designer role, being in the situation of working with a chemistry professor, would be a team leader. It is important to note that the role of the instructional designer is to serve as a tool to provide insight and best practices, whether it be for course development or, in this case, introducing new delivery methods. For this to be successful, there needs to be a litany of teamwork present, in addition to being patient and listening to the professor who is the subject matter expert. Tracy states that collaboration designers must have practices that incorporate communicating thoughts, listening, and negotiating. Being that this particular new chemistry professor is reluctant to incorporate new ways of delivering their chemistry content, it is my job to introduce and show them a variety of different ways to do so. As you can see from this handout, instructional designers wear many hats, such as a researcher, they're a listener, they're a troubleshooter, they're a team player, they're a strategist, they're tech savvy, etc. Some of the design considerations for this scenario would be to check with the college or university if there is a budget in place to use on new technology for this chemistry course. Time is always a factor when employing instructional design. There may be deadlines in place. The professor or instructional designer may have scheduling conflicts, perhaps a lack of motivation on the part of the professor, being that they have already established a mindset of wanting to keep their delivery method in place. My style states that the purpose of most designs is to fulfill limitations or constraints on the design procedure itself, such as time, cost, tools available. During these meetings where communication will be a factor, we will discuss in detail the available resources that are conducive to chemistry, such as the tool Quizlet that allows the learners to identify certain terms associated with chemistry. Quizlet is a free asset that enables students to make their own particular flashcards or peruse what different students have as of now. Vargas in 2011 says that students can cut and paste their data directly onto the cards or utilize the official dictionary to locate the best definition. Some needs to be considered will be associated with the delivery methods, being the Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as the ADA. Detailed in this handout, as you see here, is a process that we follow at my university. I would use some of these components with the professor during our sessions, such as discussing new processes and the course design, in addition to the handouts created for the instructional materials. Holbrook in 1994 says, "It would appear we have to discover approaches to start instructing in view of societal circumstances and afterward build up the conceptual learning that enables students to value the pertinence of the science. This viewpoint leads to the following questions to address when determining ways to address the societal and cultural factors. These questions are, how can we design and develop the chemistry curriculum to make it more popular, interactive, and fun? What tools can we incorporate to help visualize the chemistry curriculum that represents all cultures? How can we make chemistry relatable across all spectrums of the world? And finally, what activities can be implemented to bridge the gap of students with different societal and cultural backgrounds?" Silber, back in 2007, states most design choices, particularly instructional design choices, depend on numerous constraints and constraint operations in the design space, not a ton of principles and heuristics. One of the constraints that may be present has to deal with the implementation of the technology tools. There may be a disconnect between the professor/subject matter expert and the technology, and because of this, instructional materials may need to be created and shared that display a step-by-step process of how to use it. This in all likelihood will increase their skill level with this tool. Another constraint that may occur is abiding by course design rules and regulations in place by the college or university. There may be technology tools that exist but do not adhere to the copyright policy or be ADA compliant. This most certainly would fall under the category of design constraints. Brown and Chandrasekaran in 1989 state, "For all intents and purposes, all types of examination in instructional design are designed for recognizing and obliging to different constraints. Design process comprises absolutely of thinking about constraints, keeping in mind the end goal to decide parameter values." To overcome the constraint of technology tools that are not understood or comprehended by the professor/subject matter expert, I would create a step-by-step guide that outlines how to use this tool. This handout will assist the professor in the event that I am not present or unable to communicate and can refer back to it for guidance. As for the course design constraints, this can be prevented beforehand as these rules in place will be discussed at the very beginning. Summing up what Holbrook has stated, a chemistry educational course tends to put the subject first and applications of course second. Overlooked is that pertinence is in the procedures and items we use in the public eye, and just a short time later in the comprehension, should we wish to utilize scientific principles in solving a problem or making a decision. In this way, as far as relevant conceptual learning is concerned, current educational program methodologies are not giving the driving force to advance the promotion of science that is normal. To avert this from continuing, I would implement the Analyze, Design, Develop, Implement, and Evaluate, also known as the ADDIE model, with emphasis on new ways of content delivery. Instructional design models fill needs by depicting how to lead different strides that contain the instructional design procedure. Such models additionally enable individuals to imagine the general procedure, build up rules for its administration, and convey among colleagues. The technology integration model that I would choose is the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge model, also known as the TPACK. The example described by Mishra and Kohler in 2006 being that the teachers conveyed that their lesson to an expert advancement action and were demonstrated numerous relevant advances that had the chance to bolster that specific lesson. This will be what the chemistry professor I am working with will do. An activity that can use this model will be to have the professor bring a certain amount of chemistry terms and symbols to the meeting, and as an instructional designer, I will show and demonstrate the technology tool Quizlet in this case. As Hughes in 2005 states, educators and researchers alike have received this model as an apparatus for understanding and propelling pre-service and in-service instructors' capacity to implement technology into their instruction.
I'd like to close by pointing out this handout, What is Instructional Design? Basically states a systematic process by which instructional materials are designed, developed, and delivered. As you can see here, all of the points towards the bottom are all intertwined. I'd like to point out just one of them. Instructional designers collaborate with the subject matter experts to create environments where students can participate in rich, meaningful learning experiences. That's what we want to do as instructional designers, is basically make the course as meaningful as it can be online for students. In order to do so, we have to make sure that the chemistry professor understands that the delivery methods presented to them helps the cultural and social factors that may occur. It is important to note that instructional design supports the process of learning and not teaching.